This is the morning news on LBC with Lisa Aziz.
And first this morning, 120 people left stranded after the devastating earthquake in Nepal have now arrived back in the UK. It's as officials are urgently investigating reports one British national was killed by the resulting avalanche at Mount Everest Base Camp. More than 5,000 people are now known to have died following the disaster, including another Briton who'd been living in Hong Kong. 25-year-old Prabin is sleeping in a makeshift tent in Kathmandu.
Lots of people are homeless right now. There is no help from any other, like political parties or any other places. Here, we are managing by ourselves. Even like this Putin that we are staying, we are doing by ourselves.
Well, joining us now, Ben Fetton is Country Director in Nepal for the Adam Smith International Group, which specialises in helping countries such as Nepal with economic development. He has just returned, though, after being stranded for days out in the open in Kathmandu following the devastating earthquake. Ben, good to have you with us this morning. Just go through what you've experienced in the past days.
Morning, Lisa. So I was in our office in Kathmandu on Saturday lunchtime when the first big earthquake struck with 6 colleagues, and the ground started shaking very violently. The building started swaying, bits of plaster started falling from the ceiling, and we basically dropped everything and ran out of the building into the car park out front, and were joined very quickly by a couple of hundred people from neighbouring houses and shops. All of us clearly terrified. And then there've been aftershocks for about 72 hours, and which is causing a great deal of anxiety. So people have been, even if their houses are still okay, people have been sleeping outside in the open. And Kathmandu, a big city with perhaps 2 million people, has been largely without power. Most of the water supplies have stopped running. And so there's a lot of anxiety about how things are going to play out over the next few days.
All of us, of course, we've seen the appalling pictures, Ben. Good to have you safely back, of course. You came to the airport, though, in Nepal. You've managed to get back safely. What sort of a scene, though, remains there? Because we're getting all sorts of reports now that flights are trying to get in, flights can't get out. People are still really suffering, and particularly in the remote areas.
That's right. I mean, in terms of the airport, you need to understand Nepal only has one international airport. It's pretty small. There's certainly a lot of flights both arriving and leaving. The airport's full of C-130 military transport planes bringing aid in and taking people out. So it is moving, but there's only a limited amount of capacity, and there's a lot of people trying to get out and a lot of aid trying to get in. And in terms of the rural areas, a lot of the roads aren't passable because of landslides. There's a limited number of helicopters, which is the only real way to get supplies out to these rural regions. And a key part of the difficulty is just information, knowing where the aid is really required. I mean, we've been asked by the UK government to use our networks to try and find information on where the most acute need is, and to help inform where the targeting should be.
Just give us a sense of how scary it was to be out in the open with many, many thousands of other people in the same situation, not knowing indeed if there'd be another earthquake, another aftershock, and how quickly the aid came in and what more needs to be done.
In terms of how scary it was, I think the actual shakes don't last very long, but there's a great sense of anxiety over whether there'll be another one. About 24 hours after the first big earthquake, there was a massive aftershock, which terrified a lot of people. They were hoping that it was pretty much over by that point, and then a big aftershock basically caused a lot more damage and caused a lot more fear amongst people. In terms of what happens next, I think the priority immediately is the humanitarian one. It's reaching the people that need the support the most. It's keeping the aid coming in and helping it get from the airport to wherever in Nepal it's required.
Ben, just very briefly, if you would, and finally, 120 other Britons are also back. They're back at Stansted in the early hours. Reports there another 300 are still in the embassy in Kathmandu. Do you know much more about that, when they might return?
No, I don't, I'm afraid. But I do know a lot of flights are bringing aid in and taking people out, so hopefully they'll be out soon.
Ben, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Ben Fetton, they're just back from Nepal. He is Country Director there for the Adam Smith International Group.